All right, class, how's it going? You got Walter over here. Want to give you just a quick little heads up about assignment number 1. I would encourage all of you to take the full amount of time to work on your assignment before turning it in, making sure that you are following all the assignment guidelines. So right over here, this is going to be the guidelines for assignment number 1. The purpose of this assignment is for you to watch a movie, identify a character with a DSM-5 diagnosis, and then describe that through the course of the assignment. Okay, that's going to be the main goal here. So we wanted you to be able to do, actively look at a film, analyze the content of that film, and extract from the film DSM-5 symptoms. So this isn't going to be a movie critique. This isn't going to be like one of those YouTube videos with, oh yeah, 15 things you might have missed in this movie. It's not going to be like one of those. This is going to be you watching the movie as an objective observer and extracting DSM-5 symptoms. It's going to be very important, right? So I don't really care the thematic undertones or whatever in the film. This isn't a film review. This is where a lot of people end up losing points because they write a beautiful film review, but they're not actually following the assignment. When you follow the assignment, this is going to be very simple. So we have a list. You want to pick a film, and then you're going to write a paper on it. There's actually going to be some prompts you're going to need to respond to. Okay, this is going to be very important here. So for this list, I want you to choose a film off the list, and there's a reason why. The instructors and the supervisor of the course, we all go through, suggestions from students in prior semesters, and we always look at our list every year just to make sure that we have a good selection. So if you think there's a film that should be included, you can send me an email, and the fellow instructors and myself, along with the supervisor, can discuss adding that to the list. If you send me a movie in an email, you are not going to be able to write a paper about that film. You will only be able to write a paper about a film that is included in the list. Now, next semester, the future students might be able to write a paper on that film, but you won't be able to. There's no exceptions to that. There's no exceptions to that. Even if you pull up a film that says DSM-5 the movie, you can't write a paper on it. And there's not going to be any exceptions to that. I don't care how good of an email you write me, I'm not going to change that. So this is just some simple stuff, making sure that you have the appropriate length, that you're using the right format. You're going to read that and follow that. So you're going to have several questions to answer. So this is going to be pretty simple. You're going to be like, hey, I'm doing whatever film, and the character is this character, right? It's worth 1 point. You either get a 0 or 1. Okay, that's going to be very simple. Now, this one right here is going to be explaining how 3 of the 4 definitions of abnormal behavior were present in the individual's life. So we do have some slides, some lecture content about the 4 Ds of abnormal behavior. You need to cite the content that you are pulling from. Links to the Purdue Online Writing Lab, and look up how to properly cite lecture content. You might have to be a little creative on this to figure out, like, what is lecture content? Well, lecture content is like a live presentation or something like that, and figure out how to cite this. Anytime you are discussing content that is not original, that means that you did not come up with it yourself, you need to cite your source. I would be a source, right? But think about it carefully. The information that you're talking about, is this information that I came up with and then put into a slide? Or is there another place for you to find this information? So you need to do some due diligence to make sure that you are citing the correct source. So for example, don't cite Zaz as Walter 2020 or whatever, because I did not come up with Zaz. Do you see what I'm saying? So like, you're going to have to spend some time looking through the slides and figuring out where the source came from. Maybe check the readings. Maybe there was a discussion of the 4 Ds in the readings. And maybe you should cite the readings. So please cite your sources. So right over here, this is going to be very, very simple. What you need to do is clearly define distress, and then you're going to have to clearly define how this distress plays a role in the character's experience. So this would be like Distress is this. You're going to have to define distress. So that way, I understand that you know what distress is. And then you have to pull a scene from the movie to describe how distress plays out in the scene, in the film in general, how distress was represented. Not getting into a deep film analysis, but showing me that you understand what distress is and how distress plays out. That's going to be important. Same thing for dysfunction, same thing for deviance, same thing for dangerousness. If you are pulling scenes from the movie, I do not want you to open quotes, put a bunch of dialogue in there, and close quotes. This is not a film review. I need you to paraphrase what happened to let me know or demonstrate to me that you understand how these apply. So we're not going to do the thing where, well, Jimmy said this, and then Jane said that, and then Bill came in, and then Bill said that, and then this No, this isn't a screenplay. If you're confused about that, come to office hours or send me an email. If I see direct quotes, I'm taking off a point for every direct quote. I will literally give you 0 on the paper, so you will not be filling up your paper with direct quotes. You will be paraphrasing. Now, after you paraphrase, then you can cite the film in APA 7th format. So anytime you pull information from a source that's not your own, you're going to cite. And that applies for the film. And that applies for the deviance. That applies for the DSM-5 symptoms. That applies for everything. Third question you're going to be responding to, identify one of each of the following factors. You're going to identify one risk factor, one maintenance factor, and one protective factor. One of each. I don't want 3 risk factors, 3 maintenance factors, 3 protective factors, 2 risk factors, 2... I don't want that. I want one of each. Make sure that this risk factor, this maintenance factor, and this protective factor are 3 separate things. You can't say John's father was a risk factor, but later in the film, John's father became a maintenance factor. And then towards the end of the film, John's father was a protective factor. No, These need to be 3 separate things. After you've identified a risk factor, a maintenance factor, and a protective factor, I need you to give a clear explanation what a risk factor is and how this example qualifies as a risk factor or a maintenance factor or a protective factor. I want you to paraphrase and then cite the film. There might be some way for you to cite your definition of a risk factor, a maintenance factor, and a protective factor. Maybe it's in lecture somewhere, one of the slides. You should probably cite these sources. So right here, points are going to be awarded based on the clear flow of ideas and lack of typos, grammatical errors. Please use spell check. Don't hack this out before it's due. Run Grammarly on it. Do something. Please check for all these typos. This is going to be a formal academic paper. You might have to look up the guidelines of a formal academic paper. We have points for clear sentences, logical flow of ideas, no typos, for meeting the formatting requirements. So right over here, what I've included is a grading sheet. I believe you should grade your own paper based on these guidelines, because these are the guidelines that I'm going to use to grade your paper. Before you turn in your paper, you should grade your own paper. So now these are going to be the points you can earn for every section for a total of 30. So right here, we have an incorrect length penalty. So right over here, if you don't do the right stuff, you're going to lose some points. If you don't choose the right movie, you're going to lose some points. If you don't turn it in on time, you're going to lose some points. If you don't include the appropriate reference and include an appropriate reference page, you're going to lose points. Research this. There's a link right here. Make sure you follow all the guidelines. Quick heads up to you, if the only reference you have is the movie, you will lose points. Where did the 4 Ds come from? Where did the risk factor, maintenance factor, protective factor come from? You need to cite that. So I can think of 3 sources off the top of my head you should probably have in your reference section. If you're confused about this, come to office hours or send me an email. We have some stuff here about emailing the TA for approval. Oh, guess what? Yeah, you can email me about it, but more than likely, I'm not going to approve it. Some of the suggestions are not good. But you can send me an email. I'll be honest with you, I'm probably not going to approve it. Pull off the list and keep it going. One of the things I want to talk to you about is the punctuality. There are no bonuses for turning it in early, but there are a lot of penalties for turning in late for every day that it is late. So the second it becomes 12:01 a.m. or 12 a.m. the next day, that is late. If you don't turn in on Friday and you turn in the following Monday, that is Saturday, Sunday, Monday late. I will literally give you 0 points on this assignment. If you're having problems, email me now. If you're having struggles, email me now. Do not email me on Friday the 25th after 5 o'clock. I'm not checking my emails. So if you're worried about Compass, you're worried about the submission portal, you're worried about stuff like that, if you know that you have unreliable internet access, think about that long term. If you know that you have unreliable internet access, you need to go ahead and think, well, when it gets out to the time to turn this in, like, should I wait to the last minute? Also remember that now that everybody's on Compass, the stability might go down. Don't be surprised. There are probably going to be more problems with Compass. So please think about that. These are the instructions for the assignment. This is the list of movies. There's a lot to choose from, and a lot of these can be viewed online. Do with that information what you will. But if you have any problems, send me an email. Some people are confused about how the assignment should look, so let me give you an example here. This code name here, you don't have to worry about that. Why? Because we're not doing paper copies. Everything's on Compass. I am doing anonymous grading. I would suggest you do not put your real name on this. Don't identify yourself in any way. Don't put your UIN. Don't put your net ID. Don't put your name. Don't put anything. It's anonymous grading. No one can feel like I'm judging their paper harshly. Notice how nowhere on here is there a title, heading stuff. When you submit it to Compass, I'll already be able to know who you are. So you don't need to tell me what assignment this is for. That's on Compass. You don't need to tell me what the date is. That's on Compass. You don't need to tell me your name. After I grade it, that will be on Compass. You're going to label part 1 as number 1. Put your content in of the movie and the name of the character. See this indentation? When I do a 1 and then I tab over, it puts this little indent in. But then when I go to the next line, I want you to remove that indentation. It's right back to the 1-inch margin. So notice also in this sample document, I didn't copy and paste the instructions into this document and write little one-line answers at the end of the instructions. Notice how I didn't do that. So what you'll do, you'll fill in your content, and then you'll put number 2, and then you'll fill in your content in paragraph format. Just write it out. So just write it out in paragraph format, make it clear, make it organized. Now right here, you'll see this is a reference page. This is an APA format reference page. Your reference page will need to be in this format. Don't just copy and paste and throw it in a document and think I'm just going to accept that. If you have any questions on this, you can ask me. But here's what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to read your paper before you turn it in. I'm not going to check your formatting before you turn it in. Why? That'd be unfair. Because then I'd have to do it for everybody. So I'm not going to give you an advantage. Go to Purdue Online Writing Lab. So what I want you to do is make sure that you read through the assignment, the requirements. Grade your own paper. If you've already written something, go back through what you've written and revise it. Because I guarantee there's some issues in your paper. So go ahead and read through and grade your own paper. Really critique your own writing. Really challenge yourself to write at the college level. And then I'll grade it accordingly. There's going to be no replacements for this. So once you submit your assignment, I'm going to grade that. So if you submit your assignment and then you realize, oh no, I made a mistake, I'm not going to regrade your assignment. So please take the time now to check your assignment to make sure it's 100% correct and you're ready to turn it in. Because once you submit it, I'm going to grade that assignment. Now, if you have any problems at any time with this, go ahead and send me an email, come to office hours, and communicate with me. If you wait until Friday, the 25th, to contact me, don't expect a response. Once 5 o'clock comes by on that Friday or any Friday, I'm not going to check my email. Just giving you a heads up. You have any problems, you have any issues, you need to contact me now. I'll be more than accommodating early. I'm not going to be very accommodating once the due date is passed. So please, if you identify issues or potential issues, so that's going to be it for this video. Please email me. Please come to office hours. Please just take this seriously. It's only 30 points, but these are 30 points you're not going to get back. So just think about that.